In this video, I'll try to explain you how TAF works. So as you guys, whoever have got the knowledge of RAC, real application clusters, I'll be letting you know how TAF, transparent application failover, works. And to explain this particular activity, I will be taking a connection to the database from my Windows machine, which my database is on Linux machine though. I'll be taking the connection with a basic service name which doesn't have any TAF connection, and I'll be showing you the scenario if a node fails. That means if the node goes down abruptly when the user is connected to that particular node, what happens to the connection if the TAF is not configured. And later on I'll be showing you, I'll be configuring a service name with TAF properties, and after the TAF feature is given to the service name, what happens when again the same node goes down when the user connected to that node with the help of TAF, what happens is what I'll show today. As you can see, I have a 2-node rack. This is rack number 1 and rack number 2. So let me actually check the status of my database instances at the moment. Status database -d rack db. So I have my both the databases running up and fine. So I think I should be able to go ahead and start testing. So both are at open state, so that's fine. So what is the first thing I'll be doing is I'll be creating a service name, a very normal service name for which I'll be having the primary service name should actually redirect my connections to node 1, and the failover node will be for my service name will be node 2. So let me create that service name using srvctl command line, and then I will be using that service name to connect to the database and show you what happens if I don't have a service name configured with TAF. So that means no TAF to the service name is what I wanted to tell. So let me write that, create that service name now. So this is the one. As you can see that this is the database name, and the service name that I'm using is no TAF service. So that is nothing but it is just to make us relevant to understand that this service name has no property of TAF at all. So I'm telling that the primary connections whenever somebody uses this service name should be redirected to instance number 1, and if the instance number fails, then instance number 2 should be given the next priority. So that is the property of this service name. So now as soon as the service is created, let me check the status of this service as well. So it is being created now, and now if you see the status of this service, so if you see the status of it, it will be not running at the moment. So we will have to enable the service after we create it. So let me prove that. Status service -d rack db. So it is not running. So it is saying that TAF service has been created for you, no TAF service, sorry, but it is not running at the moment. So I'll have to enable this service so that it will start running. Start service -d rack db. Now you see the status again. So it is saying that it is running no TAF service is the service name which is running on the instance rack db1. Now let me make a connection to this database from my Windows machine using one of the scan listeners. So I have the TNS entry already on my Windows machine, which is configured already with these service names. So let me show you that one. So as you can see on the screen, this is my TNS names on my Windows machine. This is the service name called no TAF service. So I am connecting to the database instance with no TAF service using the one of the scan listener IPs. So this is one of the scan listener IPs. Let me prove. Let me show you what is the scan listener IP. Is it scan 1, scan 2, or scan 3? So I have this in etc host because I'm not using DNS at the moment. So that's the reason. The complete IP. grep scan. You can see that I'm using scan listener 1. So let me see where is the scan listener 1 is running. So rsctl status resource -t will tell you that, and scan listener 1 is running on my rack number 1 itself. So now let me do one thing. So using this particular service name, let me establish a connection to the database. So to do that, let me open the command line, and in the command line I'm establishing the connection. So it is using SQL plus. Remember, I have not used any TAF configuration at all. So Scott is the user. Let me connect, and no TAF service is the TNS entry. So let me unlock the account. I'm connecting to the database. So after I unlock this account, let me try to establish a connection from the Windows machine. So let me use the same thing again. Now I am able to connect. So if I say show user, I'll be a Scott user. So let me verify to which instance this user has been connected at the moment. Is it to instance number 1 or instance number 2? But as per the property of the service name that I have created, the primary connections, if the node 1 is available, should be only redirected to node 1 but not to node 2. So the connection or the user must have been connected to node 1 only. So let me verify that first. So the query that I have fired is this one. So you can see it has been connected to the instance ID 1, that means RACDB1. Username is Scott and he has used the service name called no TAF service, and he has not got any failover type configured and failover machine also configured. So failover method also configured. So it is a basic service. So let me fire a select query here. Select star from department. So it is working fine for me at the moment on my Windows machine. So what is that I'll be doing is I'll bring down the cluster on RAC 1. So how can I bring down the cluster? I will just say, remember that before I bringing down, still my user is connected to node number 1. So when the user is connected to node number 1, I think I need not bring down the cluster. So let me only bring down the instance. So how can I bring down the instance? srvctl stop instance -d racdb -i racdb1. Please remember what is that it is happening. It is just bringing down the instance, but at the moment you have to remember one thing, that you have to consider this particular case as node is completely becoming unavailable. At the moment to bring down the node and bring up the node, it will take some plenty amount of time. So that's the reason I have completely brought down the instance itself. So that means node is not available at all is what you have to just consider. Now this query, if this person tries to write a select query, see what happens? His connection has been failed. That means he will not be able to fire any query at all just after this failure. His connection is lost. So this is what case happens if you are not using TAF configuration for your services. So now I will be creating another service name with TAF setup, and then I will be showing you the same scenario. But before that, let me bring up my first instance back. So srvctl start instance -d racdb -i racdb1. Now the instance is up. Let me see the status of it. So my both the instances are up and running. With one first instance has got back the no TAF service. So let me create the another service name with TAF configuration in it. You can see that I am adding another service called TAF service, which is again first primarily is listening on, will actually reroute the connections to RACDB1. If RACDB1 is not available, then it will redirect the connections to RACDB2. And this is the type of the TAF configuration. I am using a basic configuration. There is another TAF called pre_connect. If you are using pre-connect TAF service, that means already the connections will be established. That means secondary connections will be established on the another node. So it will directly overcome the issues of node failures. But at the moment, I am just trying to showcase how a basic TAF works at the moment. So this is how it is. Let me create it, and after that I have to enable this service. srvctl enable service -d racdb. So as there are couple of services, so we have to use TAF service. So it is already enabled because we have configured it as a TAF service. So it is already enabled at the moment. So we can just now go and try to establish a connection again from my Windows machine. So let me do that now again. Sorry, it is from the another service name called no TAF service, but I've already created the another service name called TAF service, which is using the service name called TAF service that is having the TAF configuration in it. So let me use that service now to connect to the database. So instead of no TAF, Now try to explain and connected TAF service. So it is connected. So it is connected to the TAF service. That means it is connected to the node 1. That is what it should be because of the properties of the service type. So now let me verify this. I am onto node 1. So let me verify again with the SQL command which I have used before to verify to which database it has been connected now. So let me verify that. So you can see that it is still connected to node number 1, but you can see that the properties of TAF is there here. So it is session and it is basic. So it is session and basic. So this is what not existing before without TAF. So now what is that we will do is, let me fail this node. So as we have done before, now I am bringing down the node 1 now. srvctl stop instance -i-d racdb -i racdb 1 -o, you can just make it as abort. But remember, before that, let me try to verify if I can query something, if it is still existing or not. Select start from department. Yes, it is working fine for me. And now let me bring down my instance number 1. Remember that you have been connected to the database to instance number 1 with the help of TAF service at the moment. So let us see what now instance fails. So my instance has been failed at the moment. So let me check the status of my database now. So you can see that RACDB1, that is the first node is not running, but the second node is running and it is open. Now let us try to actually run a select query again in this console, see what happens. There is some difference. Earlier, when you have given the select query again, it was saying that end of communication channel failure. That means it was unable to go and get the details from it. Now there is again still end of communication channel because we have just brought down the instance, but the services will be relocated to the second instance only when clusterware goes down. So what is that I'm doing again is I'm bringing up the instance. Let me re-establish the connection on from the node number 1 again. Then what is that now I will be doing for this exercise is I'll be completely bringing down the cluster after the session has been established. So I'm again establishing a session for you. So it is again now connected to node number 1. Now instead of just bringing down the instance, I'll completely bring down the cluster on node number 1. Only then the services will be relocated to the second node, right? So that's the reason I'm now going and bringing down the complete cluster on node number 1. So how do we do that? We know this already. CRSCTL stop cluster, but for that I need root access. So let me go back to root and set the environment variables if not, and then CRSCTL stop CRS. Let this complete, then I'll be showing you what next. So now my cluster has gone down. Let me see what happens if I fire a select query now. See, it is saying that cannot safely replay call. Now you try to establish a connection, try to run the same query again, see what happens. You are able to get the result. How? Earlier, when the node 1 has gone down, it was saying that end of communication channel. But now, though node 1 has gone down, you were able to safely fire the next query because the connection has been automatically taken to the second node because of the TAF setup. So now if I can identify the same thing on the second node now, so you will be seeing that on the second node, because there is node 1 is not there anymore. So I am just trying to go to the second node and try to see the status of this connection. Is it on second node or not? Yes, it has automatically come to the second node. Earlier on which node it was? The connection was on node 1. That is what we have verified clearly. But now, though node 1 has gone down, that means I am bringing down the cluster. Automatically the connection has come to the second node. Why? Because of the property of the service name that we were using. So the property was TAF. So this is how TAF works in reality. So that whenever connection fails, so the next time when somebody gives select, it will re-establish the connection to the another node. And in this way, you no need to see a failure, end of communication failures for the end users. Thanks for listening to me. If somebody is looking for a training like this, a real time and showing you how does each and everything works in RAC or any other technologies, as you can see on the screen, you can contact me. You can SMS, call me or WhatsApp me, or you can drop me an email. The email is orskilltrainer@gmail.com. Everything is available on my page. You can still keep getting the videos like this, which might give you some additional learnings apart from what you have got currently. Thanks once again. Have a good time. Bye-bye.